the best clients are the ones where the owners care about their employees.
Oh,
where the owners say,
fantastic.
I value my employee. I want them to see value in this. They have that buy-in. The harder clients are the ones that go, I got a notice or I got a letter or we just hit this mark and oh, we have to do this thing. We have to offer insurance. Those are harder because they don't want any involvement. And the second side, it plays into that a little more. Is it at this point in America, in our healthcare system, we've got to be pushing changes forward. And I truly believe that passing laws may get some part of some things done, but I think it's the employers that are going to change the way we access healthcare. They are the ones funding it. They are the ones with the money. It is going to be employers, hopefully with the help of good brokers and partners around them that help them change the face of what healthcare looks like. But what's hard is when you come into those clients that say, just show me numbers, show me the lowest number. I don't want to know anything else about it.
Bare minimum.
Bare minimum. And
Right.
I think we've kind of, as our industry, we've taught people, hey, this is too complicated. Let me take it for you. You don't want to have to understand this. I walked into the room with brilliant CEOs and CFOs that know amazing things beyond what I do. And they look at me and say, I don't want to know what you do. I don't want to know that much about it. Just tell me what the numbers look like. But it's such a mess at this point. We have to have the buy-in for people to get involved and understand a little more about the risk that they're trying to move in their company.
Welcome to the RockstarsRocking podcast, powered by Voluntary Disruption, a show dedicated to people who are crushing their business and life goals. These are bite-sized conversations with leading rock stars in their respective industry who are pumped to share their story to help drive you to the next level. So, are you ready to rock? Speaking of rock stars, here's your host, Eric Silverman.
Hey, rock stars, welcome back to another episode of RockstarsRocking, where you know it. I say it each and every week. I only invite the finest, the most incredible, the world's best rock stars rocking it out in their daily life, their personal life, their business life, and any life in between. And let me tell you what, this week is absolutely 100%, 1,000,000%, 100 emoji percent, no different. Everybody, please help me welcome my good friend from Texas, Erin, Issac, employee benefits consultant, notably president, CEO, founder of Joy Benefits. What's up, Erin?
Just having a rocking day, Eric. Thank you so much for having me on here. And I've been a big fan for a long time. So it's kind of surreal to be on this side of the seat now.
Oh, man. Well, I appreciate and noticed you said the word rocking. So you're always in my good graces, but even more so starting this out. So I will limit the curveball questions and make it pretty simple for you. Is that fair?
Yes.
All right, there we go. Listen, you had me at hello. I don't know if anybody knows that scene from Jerry Maguire where they say you had me at hello. And when I say you had me at hello, you had me at your LinkedIn profile caption. And for anybody that's not already connected with Erin on LinkedIn, go ahead and hit that connect button or follow button, and hopefully she'll be kind enough to connect. Don't try to sell her shit though. She doesn't need that. She's not looking for that. But it literally has her name, says Erin Issac, and then it says insurance sucks. Insurance sucks, but with Joy, I help employers and employees afford and access healthcare. I love that. Punches you in the face. Why does insurance suck so bad, Erin? Come on, give it to me straight.
It's just a mess, and we've been headed that way for decades. What started out as something that truly should have been a benefit to employees and people has now become something that leaves them in medical debt. And I think it sucks because there's a lot of legacy players that we need to get out of the way.
Yeah, I mean, for those that don't know, and I'm so proud of you, Erin, I didn't know you, of course, until just this last year and a half or so, but Erin started out in the insurance employee benefits world, and you for sure, Erin, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, but she started out many years ago in the P&C side, moved over to the benefits side, working in a number of little firms, some not so little. And in the middle of last year, actually not quite the middle, almost the middle of last year, she said, enough's enough. I want out. Get me out. I want to do this on my own. I can do better on my own. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to do it myself. And hence was born Joy Benefits. So obviously, we're not here to badmouth any place you were at in years ago. I mean, I have a past too. But tell me why. What made you think you could do it better? What was maybe a defining moment or two in your old days, quote unquote, that made you think to yourself, you know what, there is a better way, and I know how to do it, and I'm going to do better by my clients?
Yeah, absolutely. I have appreciated so much the places that I've come from and the things I've learned along the way. I have nothing but gratitude for the people I've got to work alongside and for. But I historically worked inside of P&C agencies, and there's a model there that P&C is their bread and butter, and the benefits department is there to help those clients along. And over the years, there's two things that I noticed. One is, when you have everything in-house, you can also tend to kind of have a bravado of we're the best. And sometimes it's a sales strategy. We're the best, no one's better than us, but it kind of blocks the ability to really reach outside of your own environment and look at new ideas and what other people are doing, not in a way to steal it, but to come alongside them. And in my last agency, I had the opportunity to lead the department. So I was, they would say, the most knowledgeable person there when it came to employee benefits. They gave me that credit day in and day out, but I wanted someone to glean and learn from. So the past couple of years, I really leaned into our local associations, other people in the industries, and I found amazing producers in my backyard that were willing to share with me the things that they were doing, what was working. And one of the things I noticed is those brokers were independent employee benefit brokers. They were there specifically for the employee benefits. There was no conflict of this client matters a whole lot on one side of the house, maybe not so much on the other, but they were there specifically for them. And I wanted to align more with that. I wanted to do 100% employee benefits and be able to engage my clients without any conflicts and hold their hand and do what was best with them without the overhead of a big house that we had to support on both sides.
Sure. Well, so back up though, when you were a little girl growing up, did you dream of owning and running your own business? Forget benefits for a minute, because you probably didn't think about benefits any more than I did as a little kid. But was it always a dream to be an entrepreneur and start something and own it? Or did this just kind of happen on its own?
It absolutely happened on its own. It wasn't anything I ever thought about. And which is funny now, because I come from a family of entrepreneurs. When I
Really?
look around at it, I do, but it wasn't anything that was in my wheelhouse until about 2 weeks before COVID hit. Was the first time I had that moment of maybe I could do this on my own. And 2 weeks later, we all went into lockdown, and I was actually really grateful that it was just a seed of a thought at that point. And I locked it away until about 1.5 years later.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of us have a similar story. I mean, you started out with a big carrier, and then you worked your way through some agencies. But and again, everybody's got their own story. But I tell you what, I've never, to this day, I have yet to have anybody at least come on the podcast to tell me that as a little girl or a little boy growing up in their small town or wherever USA, they dreamt of selling insurance for a living and helping people with benefits like that. I feel like that's just not a thing. When you're a little kid growing up, you want to be a famous actor, a musician, a baseball player, whatever it is. But I don't think selling insurance is top of mind, let alone owning and running your own insurance agency.
I wanted to be a rockette.
See, perfect. There you go. See, that's my point. I didn't want to be a rockette. I wanted to be a baseball player. Didn't quite work out for me, but I'm very happy with how things worked out. So you mentioned being out on your own and not having to worry about this side of the house and that side of the house. You mentioned, and you kind of alluded to what I would call, and this is not your words, I'm not putting words in your mouth, but what I would call kind of leading down the road of potentially misaligned incentives, meaning one side of the house wants you to do X, the other side of the house may want you to do Y, and it's all for the bottom line, which I get it. We're all for-profit entities. Joy Benefits, I don't think, is a nonprofit. I'm not a nonprofit. But I passionately believe that there is a way to make a reasonable and fair profit and make a good living for you and your family as an advisor, me and you, while also at the same time putting the client's needs first and doing what's best for them. How do you believe that's going on in our industry? Is there transparency? Is it getting better? Is it getting worse? Is there a lot of misaligned incentives? Talk to us about that a little bit if you can.
I think there's a greater divide. There are definitely still misaligned incentives. And even that word, we talk about the jargon in our industry. It's
Sure.
another level of jargon. Is even saying misaligned incentives, it's become a buzzword and popular to say. But it's really, when we talk about transparency, misaligned incentives, are people really willing to pull back more layers than what law has required?
Sure.
So when you talk about how do we get to this place of health insurance sucking and being such a mess, I just finished the book by Dr. Marty McCary, The Price We Pay. And one of the things that's so true is there's so many hands in the pot, and everybody wants a piece of it. And more as we've grown, whether you're talking about PBMs or GPOs or all the different ways we access healthcare, there are so many things standing in the way right now between a physician and a patient to just be able to access that healthcare, and all the middlemen. And I think the same can be said even when you go specifically to our side of the business, when you talk about brokerage houses. So if you have a producer and a team of 3 or 4 people that are also in that account, and then you have a producer on the other side that's also getting a portion of that account, what I really looked at is there's the income that I'm going to make from a client is one set amount. And then if I'm sharing that between multiple hands, I'm not able to do the things that I want to do for that client. That client is no longer as profitable for me. So we know we've got the big houses that they say, if this client's under 50 employees, they're not worth it for us, because they're looking at those bigger deals. They have these large teams that put those hands in the pocket. So one of the things of like breaking out on my own is I get to take the money that I'm making for my clients. Each one matters, and I can use that to reinvest in them. So I think there are people in our industry that are doing it right. So when we specifically go back to that sales producer role, it's the question of, when you're going out to talk to a client, are you there consulting for them? Do you know the information that you're talking about? Are you able to give them a good idea of your capabilities and what can happen? Or are you selling them on a slide deck? And I think there's still a lot of that in our industry. So you have these legacy players that get a cut of that pot, but all they're really good at is selling a presentation. And then you have the people on the back end, because I came from that world, the account management side, that now has to pick up that thing that was just sold by someone that didn't quite know what they were selling, and they have to try to carry that. And that's where employers, I think, just get tired of the churn of, I was promised something, but it's not what I ended up getting.
I mean, I think that happens too often, quite often, I should say, where, it's the stereotypical overpromise and underdeliver, as opposed to underpromise and overdeliver, or wow your clients. I've said this before on the show with other previous guests that, when I'm looking for, and I'm curious what you are, but when I'm looking for an avatar client, and for me, a client would first be a broker, advisor, producer. As my firm, we don't go direct to market. But an avatar client for me would be a wow client, not an ow client, insinuating ouch, like that's painful, that hurts, I don't want to talk to them, I don't want to work with them. So I'm looking for a wow client, someone who we can truly be a team and partner with, to go through the ups and downs together, because it's not always going to be easy. And I find, and I believe personally, that as producers, as advisors like yourself, when you're prospecting deals, and I'm no different when I'm looking for new partners, oftentimes what you believe is going to be an avatar wow client turns out during the sales process that you have a gut feeling they may not be aligned with your values and what you're trying to accomplish for them. Maybe they're not ready. Maybe they just don't give a crap. In the short period you've been in business, and even prior when you were working in the benefits world, have you come across situations where you and your producer team were looking for a client, you were courting a client, you were having many meetings, and you realized pretty quick in that they're not going to be the client that you really want, but unfortunately you may take them anyway. You've been in that situation yet, and
Yeah.
what's it like?
Yeah, absolutely. I've had several clients over the years that, and it's the nature of the business, that maybe on the commercial side, it's a huge account for them and it matters to them a lot to keep them happy. And for us, it's a really small account. I don't mind those because I like taking care of the small ones too. But it's more goes into what you said, like, are they aligned with what we're trying to accomplish? And when you're trying to appease a client that isn't willing to work with you. So one thing on the benefit side, I think most brokers and producers would say this, is the best clients are the ones where the owners care about their employees. Where the owners say, I value my employee. I want them to see value in this. They have that buy-in. The harder clients are the ones that go, I got a notice, or I got a letter, or we just hit this mark and we have to do this thing. We have to offer insurance. Those are harder because they don't want any involvement. And then the second side, it plays into that a little more. Is it at this point in America, in our healthcare system, we've got to be pushing changes forward. And I truly believe that passing laws may get some part of some things done, but I think it's the employers that are going to change the way we access healthcare. They are the ones funding it. They are the ones with the money. It is going to be employers, hopefully with the help of good brokers and partners around them, that help them change the face of what healthcare looks like. But what's hard is when you come into those clients that say, just show me numbers, show me the lowest number. I don't want to know anything else about it.
Bare minimum.
Bare minimum. And
Right.
I think we've kind of, as our industry, we've taught people, hey, this is too complicated. Let me take it for you. You don't want to have to understand this. I walked into the room with brilliant CEOs and CFOs that know amazing things beyond what I do. And they look at me and say, I don't want to know what you do. I don't want to know that much about it. Just tell me what the numbers look like. But it's such a mess at this point. We have to have the buy-in for people to get involved and understand a little more about the risk that they're trying to move in their company.
What does it mean to you when you hear this phrase? Win on price, lose on price. What does that mean to you?
100%. You're gonna buy them in low and you're gonna lose them as soon as someone else can come in and shop.
Yeah, and that that's the tragedy, and I remember that back in my carrier days. For everybody listening, my name's Eric. I'm a recovering carrier rep, and we used to back in my carrier days. I'm the first to fall on the sword, and I'll get hate mail and letters on this and DMs on this. It happens often, but I'll say it again. I mean, back in those days, sure, I was compensated based on commission, but it was more the bonuses when you crushed quotas and had big sales goals that you met and exceeded by 10 times. That's where the real money came in for folks like myself and folks in my old position that are still in those similar types of companies and carriers. Still exist by all means. And look, I'm not Mother Teresa. I'm not giving any money back. I just know there's a better way these days. And back in those days, it didn't matter if we won on price, because we would win. And it was the back end incentives and the quotas busters and all the different bonuses and awards and stuff that would come after the fact. So sure, we may not have made a lot of money on that specific case initially. There were many cases that my office and I would take on proactively and love it, where we would not waive comp, but reduce our comp to a point that if that's all we got, we wouldn't take the case, but we knew other things happened later. But as night follows day, a year later or less, sometimes we would lose that same case. And as a sales organization focused heavily on new business, to be honest, we didn't care. It's terrible, but we didn't care. The group left, we didn't care, because we weren't incentivized on keeping them happy and keeping them around. We were incentivized on new business. And I know that's exactly how it still works. I haven't done that in almost 10 years, and that's exactly how it still works. And it's a shame. It really is a shame, because there is a better way. And I think it goes directly to what you were talking about, and more so And again, it's a buzzword for sure, but the misaligned incentives and the fact that, in order to bring in a good benefit, they've got to have this amount of employees or what have you. Let me ask you this though, because this just happened to me. I'm going to kind of switch gears a little bit, but I'm curious your opinion. I get when there's a really innovative new concept or company out there, insurtech of some sort. I get it that they want to start with the largest of large employers to prove their concept and bring their costs down. A lot of times you'll hear them say, well, it costs us the same amount of money to put together a group with 10,000 lives as it does for 10 lives. We can't afford to take on a 10 life group. But I believe that's tragedy. Because, and I look at, and I'm not going to pick on a certain company, but I will pick on an industry. I have a lot of my small, mid-sized clients that would love to bring in a fertility type benefit to their employers, or excuse me, their employees. And there is really no solution in the marketplace that exists unless you have at least 1,000 lives. And that's just one industry, the fertility side of our industry, but it happens quite often. And it's mind blowing. Why does an employee I'm making up numbers, 80 grand a year, doing a great job working for a small employer? Why do they deserve to have less impactful benefits because they happen to support the local small business owner and work there, as opposed to going up the street to a 10,000 person company to make the same money or worse and quote unquote get better benefit access? What's your whole thought on that whole concept?
Well, you're absolutely speaking to the choir. I understand that's, my bread and butter and where I live is in that small group community. I understand the reach of administrative costs and the burden there. That's true. We're not going to deny it. I'm not going to say that things that you can offer to a $10,000 or 10,000 person group, you should be able to offer to a 5-man group. But going to your point, yes, they still deserve to have the same access to care. And there are some amazing, cool, innovative things. So that was part of me opening up Joy Benefits, was I wanted to figure out how we bring these big box solutions down to smaller employers. And I went out here with a mission and found out there's a lot of people already leading the way. And I love that. I have so many mentors and broker partners that have already been on this journey to say, how can we get more of these solutions downstream? And because of that push, there are more players coming in, pulling some of these solutions downstream. I think it's not a segment that should be ignored. And I think part of the solution is going to come in aggregating these small groups, and it's already happening. So advocacy services. Advocacy used to be something that you could only get being part of a larger company, and that used to be 500 plus employees. And now we have solutions where partners have said, hey, we're going to purchase the service for our whole book, and then we're going to offer it to smaller employers. So I think as we start to look, it's going to be just telling people that we're interested and making it known this could be a service that can be grown across an aggregated group, and finding those right partners that'll bring it downstream to your 2 to 5 to 10 person groups.
I can't wait. I really can't. Let me ask you, what's again, I'll put you on the spot a little bit, but what's a benefit or something that perhaps you're really passionate about that a lot of small, mid-sized businesses aren't offering or could or should offer, that you really love introducing them to, that they may not have otherwise have heard of or have even thought of? And or same question really, but on the opposite side, is there a specific benefit that comes up that employers in your market are asking about that they have not had access to or anybody knowledgeable to tell them about?
I think right there, going back to advocacy, I'm still blown away each day how many individuals, whether they're at a large company or a small company, don't understand that they should have access to some kind of advocate. To me, if you're at a large company, that should be a no-brainer. It should already be built in. But knowing that smaller groups can have access, down to 5 people or less, that they can have access to an advocate that can help walk them through pricing services, price transparency, negotiating bills. I filled those calls still, and it's all, individually from friends and family saying, hey, I need help walking through this. And I take those calls. But when you can have a service that is their job day in and day out to help, navigate this crazy system that we have, everybody should have access to that. And alongside that, I would say what sits with that is $0 telemedicine. we all got really familiar with telemedicine during COVID, but now we've kind of reverted back to where health plans, if you're using telemedicine inside your health plan, there's fees, or you're back to copays, and how easily inaccessible it is to give part-timers, full-timers, anybody in your population access to a $0 health care. You are breaking down a barrier to them being able to see or delay getting care when you can just provide that easy $0 access.
I love telemedicine, and I won't implement it unless it is $0 copay, because it won't get used nearly as much. The utilization isn't there. And what's the point of putting it in if there's not going to be any utilization, or if there's going to be a hesitancy to use it? And there is if there's a copay. I remember my first time personally using telemedicine was in Disney World back in I believe 2010 or 2011, maybe 2012. I don't remember, but right in the beginning of the 2010s. And I was deathly ill. It was the first day of our vacation, and that is no way to spend a lot of money and sit there in a hotel. And I used telemedicine, first time ever. I forgot I had it. My wife said, "Don't we have this telemedicine thing?" And I do this for a living.
Yeah.
And I totally forgot. And I used it. Long story short, a Z-Pak cured all. I didn't even know what a Z-Pak was at that point. And honest to goodness, and the doctor prescribed it. Disney is amazing. They had it delivered to my room from their pharmacy. And I was out for a day. And then after that, we enjoyed the rest of the week. So I've always been a big fan of telemedicine. And I was actually very glad, positive outcomes from COVID. I was very glad that that was a shining moment that came through and has still been there for employees when they need it most. So very good. Let's talk about something that you shared with me before that I think way more people experience than otherwise, and certainly people don't talk about it nearly as much as they should. And that is what folks would quote unquote call imposter syndrome. And I know for you, and I'll let you share your story, but for you, leaving the benefit world, being an employee somewhere at another shop, for you to leave and go out on your own, I know you had, and I got to imagine you had a little bit of imposter syndrome. Talk about what it meant to you, and does it still occur, and how you're overcoming it? Because there are a lot of people listening that go through those same struggles.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll back up a little bit and tell you, many years ago, I took a test called Strength Finders, gives you your top 5 strengths. And I was frustrated, a little angered that one of mine that came up was self-assurance. And I was like, I'm cocky. Like, I'm pretty down to earth. What does self-assurance mean? I read it as pride. So I dug in, and what I found that it meant was confident, that I don't second guess my choices. And if I do make a mistake, I'm very willing to say, oops, I made a mistake. Let's figure out how to fix it. And so I've always led into that, and that's come out in how I work. And the fact that I'm not afraid to walk into any room, no matter who's in that room, how big or how small or what they do. But launching Joy Benefits and opening my own agency, something shifted. And for the first time in my life, I really started to feel a little bit of that imposter syndrome of, what do you think you're doing? Can you do this? What makes you think that you can do this? And then even mentioning what I said earlier is I had a plan of, I'm going to go out and find these solutions. And I looked around and said, oh man, there's already people doing the things that I want to do. And it made me feel like I needed to shrink back a little bit and think like, well, what am I thinking? That I'm going to go do things that other people have already been doing for 5 or 10 years longer. They're further down this road than I am. But those same people that maybe I looked at and had imposter syndrome and thought, maybe I don't need to step up to this plate, were the ones that invited me, were the ones that said, we want you to show up. And they leaned in and said, how can we help you? How can we help make this a success for you? What can we do for you? And what I realized is it goes back to the idea of that abundance mentality versus a scarcity mentality, is that there's plenty of business out there. And even it's not so much about the business, Eric, but it's the fact that we're in a dire situation with where healthcare is. People need access to better resources, and they need to know what those resources are. And if you're not in our industry, because we talk about it all day long as an echo chamber in our industry, but outside of that, people have no idea that we're actually trying to change how we access healthcare. And so there's people that I'm going to reach that my favorite mentors that have been doing it 10 and 20 years longer than me will never have access to. So it was really stepping into that idea that I have a space and I have people that will interact with me in a different way, and I need to show up for them and be there. That's been the encouraging part, and it's been my mentors and people around me that have encouraged that.
Yeah, I mean, I love how you mentioned the word mentors and how you have found when you stepped into the business on your own independently for Joy Benefits, you realize, oh my goodness, there are people out there doing this. Should I be doing this? What should I be doing? How do I do it? And you found some mentors within the industry. There's a lot of them out there. Anybody who's not willing to help and become a mentor and share actual best practices and what to do and how to win business and how to help your clients. Anybody that does that, to me, is living their entire life, personal and business, through a scarcity mentality, as opposed to the quintessential abundance mentality that they should be having. And I get asked that all the time. I have literally folks who have asked me over the years, many times a year, will say, "Hey, Eric, you're speaking on stages, you write articles, you're heavy on social media, you're always giving away your best secrets. Is there anything, or what we think is your best secrets, is there anything you are holding back for your special clients?" And I'm like, yeah, the magic pill, I have it right here, but you had to pay. No, I share everything. I mean, the reality is it's not about the idea. It's not about the anything to me other than execution, right? How many times has somebody said to themselves after Uber came out, "Oh, I thought of that idea years ago." Great. You probably did. I'm not going to argue with you. But you didn't execute. You didn't go and do anything about it, right? So it's no different when you get a good idea at a conference, or if you hear a good idea on this podcast or any other great podcast. It's all about execution. Talk to me about Books with Benefits, book club. I've seen you big time on LinkedIn and social media over the last many weeks talking about it. In fact, just the day we record this, coincidentally, I believe you had a book club live either today or yesterday. Yes. Talk to me about it. Why'd you start it? What's it mean to you? What's the traction been like? Who can join if they want to join? Do they have to be brokers? Can they be sales reps, quote unquote, trying to sell you something, probably, right? Jokes aside, like, talk to me about where this came from.
Yeah, so I'll tell you all of my secrets of where it really came from.
The magic pill, here it is.
One, it's very selfish, is I wanted to hold myself accountable to read more. So I actually I had 2 books that I had bought a year ago when I opened my agency, and they were still sitting on my desk. And
which books?
Never Pay the First Bill and The Price We Pay.
Oh, 2 of my favorites. Absolutely. Marshall and Marty.
Yes, absolutely. So they, if you're on LinkedIn, you see them. You see those 2 books come up time and time again in our industry. I knew I needed to read them. I bought them, and they sat. And so I thought, okay, I need some accountability. I need to read these books because I know there's good content in there. And then the second side of it was I wanted a way to tell other people about it. And so we have so many incredible podcasts in our industry. We have people that are active on LinkedIn making videos, and I get on Spotify and listen to podcasts. But to me, it became another avenue for people to access this information. And then who it's for, I wanted to swing the door wide open. So I knew about it because we talk about it in our industry. I follow industry people on LinkedIn, so that's how I saw these books. But your everyday person, like, if nothing else, if you can, I have it right here. If you can just put this in front of someone's face and say, "Never pay the first bill," like, it's, I've sat in front of my clients, in front of the employees, and they said, "Well, I got this bill and I didn't know what to do, and it didn't seem right."
Mug right there.
Yes. But then I got scared and I just paid it anyway. And I'm like, I just put my head in my hands when I say that, because we want to intersect them before it gets to that point. So the book club just became an avenue to attract more people to hear about things that are going on in our industry, because there are book lovers out there and people that love to read. So I want individuals, I want our Facebook and our TikTok users that work for other employers, or large employers, or small employers, or self-employed or unemployed. I want them to come and learn more how to access it. I invite all of my peers and my mentors and the people alongside me to come. It's not something that's meant to be branded as Joy Benefits. It's intentionally branded books with benefits, so that people feel like they can all come and join. And I've told them, invite your clients in too. Come, let your client listen to what's going on in the industry, so that you're not trying to stuff them with information come renewal time, but that they're able to pick up things throughout the year of, oh, I haven't heard of that concept, or I didn't know that that was an option, or man, we really do need to pay more attention and change how we're accessing this and how we're presenting it. So I want it to be welcome and open to everyone. And I hope that we can kind of just start to move the needle to be able to give access points to people on how we're changing the industry.
As we start to wrap up, I want to dive in on something you just said, and I know this, again, we're recording it today, whatever day, it doesn't matter if you're listening. We're recording it today. It'll be released in a few weeks, whatever. But and I know right now it's Marty's book, The Price We Pay. But just going back to Marshall's book, Never Pay the First Bill. I've had Marshall on the podcast, a good friend. Hopefully going to have Marty on at some point soon. But when it comes to, you said a lot of people will just pay the bill because they get nervous, right? Oh my gosh, I just got to pay it. Whatever, it is what it is. Do you think there's anything to be said for people, whether they can afford it or not, some people paying the bill just sheer out of convenience versus the inconvenience of researching it, calling, getting stuck on hold, getting hung up on, getting promised to be called back, figuring it all out on their own? Because I personally, I'll follow my own sword. Again, I may be in a different environment financially, so I quote unquote can afford that. I'm not bragging about it, I'm just being factual. But I do, in my opinion, think that a lot of people would love to do all the different research to not pay it, but a lot of people do pay it more out of convenience than out of the inconvenience for doing the research. Am I the only one?
No, absolutely. In fact, Marshall, on our call, he was on our first book club, and he admitted to the same. He talked about a dental claim and he fought it a little bit. And then he said, you know what? We had the money. It wasn't that much. I just paid it. And after our call on that book club, he actually did go back, follow up, and go back to them and fight it, because we talked about this idea that, yeah, it's work. And sometimes you might spend more time fighting it than it might be worth out of your hourly bill rate. But it's about how we're trying to push the needle and change the system.
Sure.
It takes a few people trying to make a change that can affect it for everybody. So it's fighting that fight, even when it sucks a little harder. And I'll go back to say, that's where we talk about advocates as well. When we can have people that help individuals intersect it and they don't know how to navigate the system, but you have someone that can walk next to you, it's invaluable.
What's by the time this podcast release, we'll probably be into late June, early July, to be honest, for the folks listening. Hopefully it's around that time frame. What's next? What's the book that we're going to be in at that point? Is there any, because at that point it won't be an exclusive.
Yes, we are going to be reading An American Sickness by Elizabeth Rosenthal. It was recommended by Elaine Horton. She's another giant of industry.
Yes. She started her own firm just like you.
Yes. So when I first announced the book club, she said, this is a must read. It is a longer book. So for this one, we are actually going to split it into 2 months, and it's summer. Okay. People are traveling. So whenever they hear this, pick up the book. We're going to have it in 2 parts. You can jump on both or one or the other. And we're going to read some more about our American healthcare system.
I love it. There's so many staples out there. Dave Chase, all of his books are certainly going to end up on your list at some point, I'm sure, if they're not already noted. Another one, and I had Dave on the podcast, another one to add to the list just for you, whether it becomes a book club book or not, if you haven't read it yet, is Seth Denson's book. Have you read Seth's book, The Cure?
I have not read
Seth is a Texas dude. I don't know if you know Seth. He's a good guy. So read his book, The Cure. It's all about medical healthcare, you name it. So I would certainly add that to the list. It's incredible. List could go on and on and on with books, but I love what you're doing there. Look, as we wrap up, I want to congratulate you. We are timing wise, we are recording this 4 days after your 1-year anniversary of starting Joy Benefits. And I just loved you had a big LinkedIn post, got tremendous traction. You must have had thousands and thousands and thousands of views. I can't see that, but I can see you have about 150 reactions, likes, loves, celebrates, funnies, etc.
Yeah.
70 something comments, some reposts. But for those listening, please help me celebrate Joy Benefits and Erin. As of just a few days ago, she has 13 employers served, 17 carriers that she's written, 307 lives covered. And here's the thing. Some of the folks listening to this, or some of the folks that would think to themselves, geez, I would never be invited to be on a podcast. You know, I've only been in business less than a year. I only have a handful of accounts. I only have, you know, a few dozen lives served at that time, or whatever it is. Everybody's got to start somewhere, and it's the mission and the journey that matters more than the destination. And you know, there are advisors and brokers, and you know this, that their average size case might be 300, and they might have dozens and dozens of cases or more.
Yeah.
Who cares? So what? Like it drives me bonkers when I hear advisors and brokers. And again, it kind of goes back to what we talked about with what I said, the fertility industry, in that you have to be this mega group in order to get access to fertility benefits for employees. Well, why do you have to have thousands upon thousands of lives covered as a benefit advisor and broker to preach and share your mission to help others, and vice versa? So I couldn't, again, I haven't known you forever, but I'm so glad to know you, and I'm so proud of you, and that we met. Check out this LinkedIn post again. It's from 4 days ago, so it's early June 2023, but it's so inspirational, and I couldn't be more excited for you and the growth of you and Joy Benefits.
Thank you, Eric. I appreciate that. It was, you know, you say that, I looked at that 307 employees covered, and I thought, some people are going to say I have one case that size. But I felt like it offered value to show people you can start out at any size, because, hey, it's year one. This is just the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, like, and again, for what it's worth, because probably anybody, it's okay. Nobody's going to go back and find this, because it'll be hard to find. LinkedIn isn't easy to search, as we know. Yeah. But I love how you said, you know, out all those numbers, 0 tears shed from work stress, because it's your own business. You're passionate about it, right? Mm-hmm. 2 couples reassured as they walk through the IVF and expecting their first. Look, I hadn't even read this post yet. I read it the other day, but it didn't even cross my mind when I mentioned fertility. 4 female agency leaders you've poured into as they begun their journey, and I'm sure vice versa, they've helped you. 10 plus industry leaders and giants that you call mentors and friends. $14,000 saved for a 2-person group. That's insane. Like, that's real money. It's real money to anybody, but a 2-person account, that's big time, mega bucks, right? 23 participants who joined on your first book club to make healthcare more accessible. That was Marshall's book, Never Pay the First Bill. 25% of clients were referred from existing clients. Now that's a big one. I love that one, because I'm a marketing and sales guy, and the best way to get a new client or prospect is from somebody that already loves you and preaches you to others. The list goes on, but no, don't underestimate yourself. Anybody listening, certainly not you. I love how you said 100% retention. It's only been 1 year.
Yeah.
You're going to have ebbs and flows. You're going to have people leave you. You're not going to have 100% retention forever. And by the way, I don't know if it's happened yet, as you continue to grow, there's going to be clients that are no longer wow clients that you help move to a new broker, where you have to, for your own mental sanity and your employees, once you start growing more, you're going to have to take them off your client Rolodex, and you're going to have to say, it's not you, it's me. Not true at all, by the way. It is you, and we need you out. I've had to, I'll just say it, I've had to fire some of the largest employer groups I've ever had, and it is a blessing to be able to do that. These are groups that when I was brand new starting out, I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I'll do anything to get that group and keep it. But you have to understand there's a breaking point. And for me, when I had to do that, it was my employee team. It was the stress that they were putting on my team that was bogging down my productivity for our organization, that was then transcending into our other groups, smaller and larger, that would then eventually end up costing us even more business. So I had to make the decision, uncomfortable as it was, they've been a client for 10 years, to let them go. And I kid you not, the CEO told me on the phone, This is prior to Zoom being popular, prior to COVID, but the CEO literally did the old, do you know who I am? Do you have any idea how many brokers would love to have my business? And all I could do was smile. And I was so relaxed. And I said, you're absolutely right. We've been together for a long time. But, and I did say, I'll be honest, I said, it's not you, it's me. It wasn't me. But I was trying to be nice and leave on good terms. And it was the most relief I've ever had. When I was done that call, I was celebrating. And we did lose some money short term, but we more than gained money, not so long term, but definitely long term, with the credibility and the passion amongst my team, with them being excited that they never had to worry about that account again, and that I had their back. So that's going to happen to you one day, and that's a good thing. And anybody listening, if it hasn't happened to you yet, it's going to happen, and you're going to be relieved when it happens. Joy, any parting thoughts, things you want to share with your raving fans before we let everybody go?
I would just tell people to keep putting themselves out there. Just keep reaching out. It's what's made a world of difference in my business, in my life, is showing up, reaching out to other people that you admire, that you think you're not good enough to stand in the same room as. Go up and introduce yourself, and it'll open doors.
I love it. I love it. Well, look, I can't thank you enough for coming on. I can't thank everybody listening enough for listening to yet again another week of me just having fun. I mean, I say it all the time. I just show up and hit record and have conversations and talk to friends and new friends. But I don't do any of the heavy lifting or the hard work, the editing and marketing and all that stuff. So for all the people that do behind the scenes at the Rockstars Rocking podcast, I want to thank you and everybody listening on their behalf, my behalf. And like I said, if you're not already connected with Erin, please do so right away. Connect with her on LinkedIn, follow her if she's if you'd rather. I'm telling you, watch Erin grow, the rising star. I don't know if there's still awards out there, but I would give it to you because you're well on your way. Joy benefits, Erin, Issac, we've said it all. Thank you, my friend. And until next time, everybody, don't just have a great week. No, that's ridiculous. Make it a great week. Thanks again, guys.
Thanks, Erin.
Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of the Rockstars Rocking podcast. If you haven't done so already, make sure you're subscribed to the show wherever you consume podcasts. And if you feel so inclined, please leave us a review. 5 stars would totally rock. Until next time, Rockstars, keep rocking.